And we're back. You're listening to the Talkin' Boxing with Billy C show. Don't forget about getting my book. That's right, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man on the Planet. Get it right now on Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. Or if you want a signed copy, just drop us, just go to our website, www.billycboxing.com, and go into the book club section, and you'll get the instructions right there. Joining me right now, Boxing Hall of Famer and New Jersey Boxing Commissioner, Larry Hazzard. What's up, brother?
Hey, Billy. How you doing, man?
Not too bad. Yeah, I did try the other number. It keeps just going to a voicemail, so that's why
Are you kidding?
Yeah,
what?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe we could test it sometime off the air. But anyway, I know how to track you down.
I just picked it up, and it's got a dial tone. I think maybe we gotta make sure you got the right number.
Oh, I got it.
We hang up on me.
Unless you changed it on me, it was programmed.
No, I haven't changed it.
Yeah, we'll test it. We'll test it one day. But anyway, before I ask you about some of the big fights this weekend. Last time you were on, we were talking about Roy. We were laughing and saying we thought he lost his mind with this whole Russian thing, and that actually got a little more serious than I think Roy thought. But what about, how about me backing up thinking that Roy kind of lost his mind when, since our last conversation, he's calling out Glowacki, the guy that he used to say that he wanted to fight Denis Ledebev, which is kind of a killer in his own right. But now he's calling out the guy who knocked out Captain Huck. To me, that just doesn't seem. I mean, that's let's all serious, Larry. That's a dangerous fight for Roy. What do you think?
Well, from the performance that Glowacki put on at the Prudential Center last week, I'd say he's a dangerous fight for anybody in the cruiserweight division who's been very, very active. But I would have some grave concern for Roy, who really, Roy's been, I guess you want to say active, but, he's been picking and choosing these guys, and they're really not, the top-level guys, which, we all can see. But now he's really going right to the head of the class, calling this guy out. I would be concerned. I would be definitely concerned about that.
I mean,
especially at this point.
I mean, you're being very. I know you have to choose your words carefully, and you're being very, very kind to say that he's picking guys that aren't exactly, top-notch guys. Because I mean, like I said, you're being very kind, Larry. Very, very kind. But you're 100% correct. We're talking apples and oranges now. Even if Roy, demonstrates that he's got half of what he used to have, when he was arguably the pound-for-pound top fighter in the sport, you're talking about a guy that, took the best a prime Marco Huck delivered in terms of punching power and stuff, and it didn't slow him down. And we all saw the punching power he possessed. I just don't know if a Roy Jones Jr. could hurt the guy, but I'm pretty sure, especially considering Roy has been down and out before, that Krzysztof Glowacki could possibly do some harm on Roy Jones to even to the point where he couldn't do the HBO gig anymore. I think you want to continue fighting, and you want to just do it for whatever reason, and you're picking safe guys. I don't agree with it, but I'm okay with it. It's kind of safe. But once you start calling out guys like this, I think that changes the game a little. What do you think?
Oh, it definitely does. And as a matter of fact, what makes a fight like that, in my opinion, even more dangerous, is that this guy reminded me a lot of Saad Muhammad, where he got actually energized by the beating. If you note, when he went down, he got up, and he was energized by the knockdown and by the punishment that he was taking. He got super energized, and the way that he finished off Huck, is proof of that. I would be very, very, very afraid for Roy. And as a matter of fact, I would be afraid for Roy fighting any of the top caliber guys out there today. And I really don't see the the real sense in what he's trying to prove at this point. Certainly a first round at Hall of Famer when he decides to retire. He's done just about everything in the sport, but six-time weight class world champion or whatever. He's done it all. So I really don't know what Roy is trying to prove at this point, but I would have some serious concern with him fighting this guy. But even, serious concerns about Roy fighting any of the top fighters out there today,
Yeah.
So I think Roy should really rethink some of these challenges that he's throwing out there.
I
It's obviously for the money.
How much can you be making? How much can you be making by fighting those guys? And I mean, are they paying him that much because of his name? And the other thing is think about it. He's been hanging around so long beyond his I don't even know if I should use the word prime, but beyond his excellence, when he was at the top of his game, he's been hanging around so long that there's a whole new generation of fight fans that have only seen Roy Jones Jr. as a shell of himself. So when push comes to shove, Larry, you and I have talked about this many times, fighters in all sports, it's like this, but in boxing, it seems to be more magnified, that your last performance is seemingly what sticks in people's minds forever. I mean, guys like Lennox Lewis who walk away as a champ, his reputation is growing because people, he's getting better as time goes on without even lifting a glove, and you got a guy like Roy Jones and James Toney that are hanging around, and people, he's a punching bag, he's this, he's that, he's, comes in overweight. I mean, that's what's in, a whole generation of fight fans' minds about a guy like Roy Jones. And when you say, oh, he was a pound for pound, nobody could touch him, they look at you like you're crazy. Like, what are you talking about? That's not the guy I see.
Yeah, and they seem not to recognize the damage that they're doing to their legacy by hanging around. They just don't get it. I don't understand it. But what you're saying is very true. And a lot of these young, these new generation fans, many of them don't even realize they don't even know who Roy Jones is really. They haven't seen Roy at his best. And, you talk about Roy Jones and what a great fighter he was. Some of these younger, fight fans, they look at you like you're crazy. You kidding me? And because they're judging on what they see. And what they see is him fighting a bunch of nobodies. And in the end, he's really damaging his own legacy. That's the one thing that I don't like about what some of these guys are doing. That's why I applaud guys like Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard and all the great ones. When we talk about them, Roberto Duran, even though toward the end of their careers, their performances, were not anything near what they were when they were at their, in their prime and in some of those great fights. They were still great performances right up to the end, and they walked away, and that was it. Of course, we talked about this many times. When Sugar Ray Leonard sat out for 2-3 years, when he decided that he was going to come back, he picked the baddest guy that was out there to fight. He didn't come back fighting a bunch of tomato cans. He came right back and he said, I want Marvin Hagler. And he fought Hagler and beat him. But you don't see that today. And this is how these guys kept their legacies intact. And when you mention names like Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Tommy Hearns, Roberto Duran, they are still, these guys are still highly recognized and admired for the great fights and for the great fighters that they were.
Yeah, no doubt. It's funny, we talk about Roy Jones, and when you think about even his fights with Tarver, you could make the point that was even past his prime, and that was 10 years ago, so Yeah, it's a shame, and you're right. You could see. I mean, he had a legacy. He's still going to have a legacy of sorts. He's still, like you said, a first ballot Hall of Famer. But he can't be making the money. I mean, if he was making big bucks, you can't argue with a guy making a living, But, fighting these obscure opponents in these obscure places, can't possibly be and nothing's on TV. Maybe that's why he wanted to become a Russian citizen. Maybe he's making better money over there. I don't know. But
I can't see it. I don't know. I mean, you go in there, these 10, 15-second knockouts and all that, guys coming in. You can look at these guys, and you can tell, what the contest is going to be like. You can tell how it's going to end just by looking at some of the opponents. So you can't, I can't see him having any type of fan base, even in Russia, because you got some decent fighters in Russia and fighters coming out of there. So those fans in those foreign countries are very learned and very appreciative of great talent. So they recognize, that Roy's not fighting anybody of any, substance. And he certainly can't be making any worthwhile money. I don't know what he's getting out of it.
Well,
maybe some midlife crisis, maybe.
Talk about substance. Some of those opponents look like they can't pass a buffet line. I mean, that's the substance I see. More rolls than the bakery. But anyway, let's talk about. I think the biggest fight of this weekend, You can't deny it. I mean, Leo Santa Cruz against Abner Mares, two young fighters going at it. There's not even a title on the line, which I even like better. We've talked about the PBC series, and it's had its ups and downs, in my opinion. Where you see something that's terrible on paper, then the fight turns out to be real good, or it's terrible. Or it's good on paper and the fight becomes terrible. This is a fight that not only is good on paper, I can't in a million years, Larry, think that this fight is not going to be what we're anticipating it. What's your thoughts on Cruz versus Mares?
I agree 100%. There's no way. Even if these guys came in at 75% of themselves, it's still going to be a terrific fight. It's hard for me to see any way that this is not going to be a barn burner of a fight, man. I can't wait to see this. I really can't. I think, I anticipate that these guys from the first bell, they're going to be coming out and going at it, man. And I just can't wait. And, they're going to give a performance that I believe will be in the ranking, probably as for the fight of the year, along with the one that we saw a week ago in Newark. But I can't see this not being what anyone who knows anything about boxing would be anticipating. These are the two very best in that division. Fighting, no title on the line, free television. Fantastic.
You can't ask for more, and this is the part of the sport that one of yesterday's topics was, do titles really mean anything anymore? And that's what I was talking about, because we've talked and complained to how many titles. It seems that there's more fighters walking around with titles than there are without. And then all of a sudden, when you look at this particular fight, you see, wow, you got everybody's talking about the fight. We all are anticipating a fantastic matchup between these two guys. And, oh, by the way, there's no title on the line, which it makes me more interested in this fight. Leo Santa Cruz is moving up a little in weight. The knock on him is he hasn't fought the top upper echelon fighters, but not because he didn't want to. He had been calling out Mares for a while. Mares, on the other hand, has fought all the best fighters. I can't see it being other than, both of these guys with that Mexican fighter style from the opening bell until it ends. And I don't think it's going to the final bell.
No, somebody's going out. Somebody's going to either get stopped or get knocked out. But, a little something on what you said about titles. You know what, Billy? I don't really know if titles ever really meant anything per se. We know to be a world champion, that's your designation. But I think going back, in the history of boxing, I think there was a greater appreciation for the fighters themselves, not so much the titles. Because look how some of the fighters from yesteryear, and we have to always talk about yesteryear in our sport, because that's when the greatest of the great fighters existed. Yesteryear, not today. Okay? So when you think back to those years, it was the personality themselves that was greatly admired. Yes, we recognize that, so-and-so was a world champion. But the emphasis in the eyes of the fans, I think, in my opinion, was more on the personality. Sugar Ray Robinson would have been a great fighter, admired, whether he was a champion or not. Rocky Marciano, Joe Louis, those guys, whether they had titles or not, they were great fighters. LaMotta, Graziano, all of those, Willie Pep, Sandy Sadler, the list just goes on and on and on. And then think about some of those fighters who were known as journeymen that we readily... I was talking the other day to a guy, and one name sticks out in my mind all the time. Two fighters. These guys probably fought in Madison Square Garden as much as any world champion. Gaspar Ortega, Ike Chestnut. You remember those names, Billy?
Yeah, they were always fighting. They were always fighting the superstar. Always the top guy.
Always fighting you. And these guys were fantastic fighters. They didn't have championships, but their names are readily known and mentioned right along with the champions. So, not to take away from, the glory and the achievement of winning a championship. We always know that's a revered thing to have. But I think that, in the conversation, I think the fighters of yesterday, the talented fighters, I think they were more admired. They were admired more for who they were and for their skills and their talents, more so than the fact that they were champions. That's just my personal opinion.
You know what? Well, the other name, look at Jerry Quarry. People look at him as he wasn't a great fighter, but he would be a champion today. Even my man Ernie Shavers. You look at, and I think we talked about this last time, but when Joe Louis fought, everybody, the bum of the month club. Well, we did a show one time. And we looked at all those bums of the month, and I would say 90% of the so-called bums of the month would be world champions today. They would beat the snot out of these guys. But the thing is that these kinds of fighters, they fought the right fights, it seemed, and they worked their way up, because boxing back in the day was a trade. You became a fighter. You learned the ropes probably by sweeping the floor of a gym. You became an amateur. You moved up the ranks in the amateurs. You became a pro. Then after that, you stayed in the sport. It was your trade. It was your livelihood. Some people chose to be a carpenter. You chose to be a fighter. And when you couldn't fight anymore, you became a trainer or a cut man or a gym owner or a promoter. That's what we're missing today, Larry. We don't have that today. Like we talked about, we got guys, poof, they paid it $25. They're a trainer today. Hey, I'm a trainer, and that's what we have. We got guys that are, construction workers, and they fight as a second income. We didn't have that back in those days.
Right, that's right. And those guys lived that life of denial, stayed in shape. They didn't eat ice cream and cheesecake and drink beer and, get drunk and get out of weight. You didn't hear a whole lot about these catch weights and all of this. Everybody was going for the fewer prizes that were there, and they had to dedicate themselves. There were fewer weight classes, and the fighters knew that they had to fit within those weight classes. They stayed in shape. Most of the fighters years ago stayed in shape fighting regularly. They wasn't picking and choosing and looking for, easy wins. And the focus was not on, having 10-0 or 20-0 or 30-0. The focus wasn't on that. The focus was on being a great fighter. And, even if you lost, you didn't consider that the end of your career.
No, you learn. You learn from your loss. You learn from your loss. Like even there was a statement Muhammad Ali made its way around social media a couple weeks ago, and he said losses make you a better fighter. He says we learn from our losses. You can't get better unless you lose. And there were some naysayers about that, but Ali was 100% correct. You can't get better unless you suffer a loss, because you go back and you say, what did I do wrong? Why didn't I beat this guy? This is why. You didn't do this right. And then you improve on that. And the attitude was different. They wanted to learn. They wanted to prove. If I'm a middleweight and I want to, show somebody that I'm a great fighter, then you know what? I want to challenge a light heavyweight. I move up to his weight. I don't ask him to come and meet me halfway and use the media and the public to try to negotiate for me. It's a different mindset. That's really the big difference. It's a mindset difference.
And that's a very profound statement that Ali made, because I would venture to say that if you went back and you looked at the greatest fighters in the game, most, if not all of them, suffered losses. But they became better fighters after their losses, I'm sure. If you did, analogy, if you went back and really did some comparative studies on, some of the greatest fighters in the game. That's a very profound statement. And it's very fitting to life itself. We learn from our defeats in life. Makes us better people in many instances. And this is how you measure your progress. The mistakes that you make, and this is the way I were. This is how I am now. And certainly in boxing, that's a good. It's a good thing. It's always good to win. But when a fighter loses, we have to get away from this. As long as he's put in a good fight and he gives his best, and he loses valiantly, and he comes back again, he'll be a better fighter. So I'm a firm believer in that, and I agree with Ali 100%.
Just like the fight we're talking about, Abner Maris against Leo Santa Cruz, is not really going to be a loser in that fight. It's a win-win, because it's going to be an entertaining fight. Even the guy that comes out with the L on their record is not going to lose. He's going to be in demand. We're running out of time. One quick question: Shane Mosley and Ricardo Mayorga are having a rematch, and I can't see many people buying this fight. The rest of the card is not that great, and what's even worse is Shane Mosley is footing the bill for everything. He's the promoter. He's trying to promote it and sell the buys, and they orchestrate the slapping the girlfriend in the butt thing, and then he admits it and all of this stuff. My question is why? Why is Shane Mosley? I mean, here's a guy that either he's just missing the limelight, or he's learning a very, very valuable lesson about promoting. He's hoping that his name alone is going to get people to buy this fight. And oh, by the way, he's competing against free TV between Leo Santa Cruz and Abner Maris, which is on at the same time. And you can't even blame Al Heyman for that, because they had that date long before the Mosley Mayorga fight was announced. What's your thoughts on that whole dog and pony show?
Well, you know who everybody's going to be watching, and Shane, he's gone back and forth to court against Don King. I'm sure you know about that. It is. And did you see the first fight? I saw the first fight. First fight had a very dramatic ending. He knocked Mayorga out, and I don't. The fight that everybody's going to be watching, and for that to be a pay-per-view, You know, I don't see what's in it for him. What is Shane trying to prove now? You know, that's my question. What's he trying to prove? And no doubt in my mind that he's going to beat Mallorca again. You know, Mallorca's been finished. So I have no interest in seeing.
And they don't even have a good undercard. I mean, I don't know. I can't figure it out myself.
It's an exercise, man. It's just an exercise, Billy. I don't know. I think these guys are missing the limelight or something.
Well, you know what? Even Michael Jordan couldn't stay out, right? I mean, you know what it is? Who said it? Mark Twain said, "Too bad youth is wasted on the young." And I think when you're an athlete, especially a superstar athlete that achieve as much as these guys do, and then because of their age and they start to realize that they made mistakes because of the youth factor, they want one more chance at it. And the part that they forget is that their mind may still be thinking like a 25 or 30-year-old, but their body just ain't the same. I still think the way I thought when I was 20 years old, but guess what? My knees tell me, you can't be running up them stairs. You can't be doing this. You can't be doing that. You know, and I just don't think they realize it because of the elite athlete that they are versus me being a normal slob, you know?
Well, I learned that last week trying to race my grandson out back and pull a hamstring, okay? So, you better believe it. Your mind says go when your body says no.
That's right.
All right?
That's right. And then you know what else? You know, it's the recovery. You know, recovery, you used to get an injury.
Billy, don't mention recovery.
I know. You get an injury years ago and you feel great in 2 days. Now your hamstrings, you're going to, guess, I hate to break it to you, but you're going to be feeling that hamstring for the rest of your life. You know, I mean.
Billy, it felt like when it went, felt like somebody like a slingshot had popped me in the ass back there.
Jeez.
I said, "Oh my gosh!" I was down in the yard. I was down on the ground rolling over. I said, "Oh, I did it."
And your grandson
mind says go, and the body says no, Billy.
And your grandson goes, "Come on, Pop, stop fooling around like that, rolling on the ground." And you're saying, "Fooling around? If I could get up, I'd kill you," you know. But anyway, I don't know. I think we're going to be treated to at least a couple of good fights this weekend, and I'll be looking forward to getting your thoughts next week, my man.
Okay, Billy.
Hey, listen. You know what? Try to remember. You know, you want to hear? You talk about a hamstring, all right? I when I was, and I actually wasn't even that old. I was probably 30 years old or whatever. I was involved with this touch football league, right? And it was my team. I had all these young guys on the team. And I was showing these guys how I wanted this play run, and I was walking through it, not running, walking. And I ripped my hamstring, and it felt so painful. I had never known what a hamstring pull was until that day. It felt like that meat that's on the back of your leg separated from the bone, right? And I wasn't kidding when I said you'll feel that for the rest of your life, because to this day, now it has to be, you know, almost 30 years ago, you know, if I run, it flares up. Like if I jog or if I move quick, like it'll flare up. Like I totally lost that mobility. And I said to myself, how do these guys who pull a hamstring in football or baseball or whatever, they tape them up, they give them a shot, and they're back on the field a week later? How do they do it? You know, I mean, I just don't get it. You know, and hamstring it hurts, man. They hurt, right?
I'm telling you, Billy, it felt like a slingshot, like somebody had shot like a pop right up to your behind. Wow! I said, "Oh man!"
So now
you could feel it pop right just like it. Crazy, man.
So the word on the street now is, if anybody wants to race Larry Hazzard, now's the time to challenge you. Is that what the? You got all these challenges. You get to the office at the commission, right? And they go, hey Larry, I want to race you for lunch, man. I want to, you know.
I hope none of my enemies are listening to your show, man.
They'll be racing you. You know, you won't even be able to cut the lawn anymore. You know, so I don't know, brother. Listen, enjoy the fights, and we'll be chatting next week.
Okay, Billy. I'll see you.
All right, man. Take care. That's my man Larry Hazzard. Ripping his hamstring, racing his grandson, man. You can't be doing that stuff. But anyway, he's going to enjoy the fights. I'm going to enjoy the fights. I'm going to take a break. I'll be back with Dax Khan, giving us his 3 favorite fights of the week, breakdowns and predictions in about 2.